Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Judge, and I want to welcome each of you who are in the room today. So glad that you made the trek here to Meisenheimer. Some of you came a little further than others, and we're grateful for your presence here today. Want to also welcome, I think we've got a number of folks, 11 so far 11, Gary says, online, live streaming, and I happen to know that there's some in New Jersey and all the way out in Utah and perhaps California. So we've got folks with eyes on this place, Meisenheimer, from all over the country. The day has finally come. Lots of folks have been anticipating this day, and it is truly a wonderful day. I am a member of the class of 1987, Pfeiffer, and that was the year that Dr. Richard Brewer retired. And I am here, I've been here since 2008 as the director of choral activities, and it's been an interesting ride. Lots of you are aware and know, keep up with things here at Pfeiffer, but I can tell you today, as I stand here, that I have never been more hopeful for Pfeiffer University in general, but especially Pfeiffer music. And we have made some great strides in the last few years, and personally, I have great gratitude to Dr. Bullard, our president, who you'll hear from in just a little while, who has been a great supporter of the arts in general, but definitely music, and we have taken some significant steps forward that you'll be hearing about over the coming time. So you will hear today, as we celebrate again the great legacy and tradition of Pfeiffer music. For many, Pfeiffer has been synonymous with music, and especially in the decades of the 1970s and 80s and maybe leading into that. But for sure, when I speak to people around the state and they hear the name Pfeiffer, they say music. So you will hear from folks today who will offer some reflections about their time here and maybe mention some significant people. But one of the things that I think we all share is that for a lot of us who came through the program here at Pfeiffer, not only did Pfeiffer itself change our lives, but especially our experiences through music, whether we were a music major or maybe we just participated in the choir and went on tour and sang in the incredible concerts that happened in this little place. And to be brief, I want to just share my experience as a freshman here. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up when I participated in that first symphonic choir concert when we did the Beethoven Mass in C with members of the Charlotte Symphony right here in this space. Amazing. And when faculty member Dr. Gene Rains, who recently passed, played as part of another one of our concerts, the Mozart Clarinet Concerto. An amazing experience right here on this stage. And Bob Gaynor played the Mozart Horn Concerto, and Walter Saul played the Beethoven Choral Fantasy. Amazing experiences. And finally, for me, in the spring of 1986, the last time that the Pfeiffer Choir really toured Europe, we sang a concert in our sister city, Meisenheim, Germany. And as we got close to the city, Meisenheim is a walled city, the people of that small town lined the road outside of that city. I may exaggerate, but it seemed like about a mile outside of that city. And they greeted our bus and ran alongside of the bus as we drove into the city of Meisenheim. And that was because the Pfeiffer Choir had sung there numerous times before and was loved. You will hear in some of the reflections today that our lives were changed. The trajectory of our lives were changed by our experience and by the people that we worked with here. Literally changed. And it's an amazing, amazing thing. We celebrate that today. We're here to celebrate Pfeiffer music. I want to introduce now part of the reason, a big reason that we're here today is the artist who created this wonderful composition that we're going to be able to see in just a few minutes. But Mark Stevenson, who I'm fortunate to call friend and classmate and colleague, created this painting. And I want to just share a little bit about Mark for maybe some of you who don't know who he is. But Mark is a son of Meisenheimer, not born here, right? Were you, Mark? Born here, born in Meisenheimer. Sorry, I'm getting my notes here. Who, through a multifaceted background, brings a unique perspective to his work. A graduate of Pfeiffer, a graduate of North Carolina State University, a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, Mark earned degrees in civil engineering and vocal performance. With an initial plan to pursue a career as an opera singer, Mark relocated to New York City in the 1990s, where he eventually found his way to the prestigious Art Student League. Success at the Art Students League ushered in awards and commissions, including acceptance to the Metropolitan Museum of Art's copyist program. Since returning to North Carolina, Mark has devoted much of his time to commissioned portraits. He has exhibited in many national juried shows, and his work has been featured in solo shows throughout the state. In May of 2014, Mark was an artist in residence in Italy. Mark is here today and lives in Salisbury with his family, his wife Caroline, and his two children, James and Emma, who are precious. And we're so delighted that they're here today, and I'm going to invite Mark to come to the stage now and share a little bit about the work that he did and the journey that he's been on with this commissioned work, and let him reveal it. Mark, will you help me welcome Mark?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. And I didn't think you wanted to say today, but I'm very honored to stand here before you. I have had the great opportunity to now take my third tribute to somebody who I've known all my life. The other two were over in the gym, and now this one. And this is very special. So thank you very much. Dr. Brewer and I arrived at Pfeiffer the same month of the same year. My dad came here in August of '60, and I came in August I'll back up. Okay. Anyway, so I've known all of these people in these paintings that I've done literally all my life in more than just a superficial manner. I've been in their homes, I've played with their kids, and all of this comes back when you're studying for trying to come up with ideas and while you're painting. So anyhow, as I painted this, what you're getting ready to see, I played the anthem of dedication over and over again, our version and other versions, and I think our version's better. And that was a very meaningful and moving piece. We all know what it means to sing that piece. However, when I was trying to come up with a theme or an idea for the painting, or a title, whatever that means, after lots of going arounds and debating, and Caroline, my wife, mentioned the song, "I Have Had Singing," and I've got to get my notes. We never sang this piece at Pfeiffer while I was here, but it's a. I need glasses and I can't see. But and now I'm not. I've Had Singing paraphrases lines taken from Ronald Blythe's Aikenfield, Portrait of an English Village. In the 1960s, Blythe traveled to the north of England, interviewing farmers, plowmen, blacksmiths, people whose stories dated back to the early 20th century. One subject, given the name Fred Mitchell in the book, was an 80-year-old horseman who told his story of working a bleak under land in a life filled with little joy. In the midst of his story, he stopped and said, "But there was always singing. The boys in the field, the chapels were full of singing. I have had pleasure enough. I have had singing." And I thought that was it. We have all had singing. And if you've ever been in the choirs with Doc, you will know what that means. If you haven't, you might know, but it's just, it did change our lives. It changed our lives. I think all were put on a trajectory toward a better place. And I had a lot of experiences at Pfeiffer, but the music experience topped them all, literally topped them all. And Dr. Brewer was my friend. He cheerleaded for me. He went to ball games with my dad, and what can I say? So I better not say too much, or I won't be able to say anything else. So I thought, what do I do with a painting? What do I do with a painting? And lots of iterations and ideas. And I wanted to achieve a memory of what it was like to be here. What it would have been like to stand here like I'm standing now. And I think anyone who's ever been up here during a concert is going to know what I mean. And that plus the inclusion of some others into the painting to show the love and the joy we had in making music. And Joe was right, the chills. The first time I walked on for a concert, I was drenched with sweat, but it was magnificent. This is great. And Beethoven's Mass in C, I will keep it brief. But I was one of the soloists, and I sat right here on the stage amongst this orchestra, and when it cranked up, when Dr. Brewer would boom, and the sound, I was sitting right in the middle of that sound. I mean, there are no words for it. There just were no words for it. And certainly at that time, I thought music has got to be part of my life somehow. So that's where we are. So I don't know what to say about the painting except here it is. And I hope that I achieve the look on faces that were the loving, sincere countenances that I remember. And until I got to that point, I kept scratching out, and there it is. And so, here we go, right? All right. Good. Well, I want you to get up here and look really close because look real close at the music and see if you recognize the text. Because I think it really it is what we did and what Dr. Brewer and Stan and Mary and all the others encouraged us to be and do. And magical people, a magical time. And I'm very fortunate to have been a part of it. And so that's about all I can say right now. I'll answer questions later when you got a chance to look at it. So, it's all about the music. That's what my sister said. Dr. Brewer was all about the music. How can we convey the love of humanity and of God through the music? So that's what was going through my mind. Every day. So that's and I walked away from it. Sorry.
Okay. I hope that everyone is able to hear well, but we'll have an opportunity at the close today to come closer and take a look, but thank you, Mark. And I think it is significant that the piece of music that, again, you will hear in just a little while. We're going to go now, as you can see, to a time of reflections, and so I want to introduce Dr. Larry Cartner.
Thank you, Joe. I guess the first thing that I would think of is I'm supposed to follow that. I don't know if there's anything else to be said. When I first saw the painting, my very first reaction was they could step off the page and you could hear them and feel them. And that is not an easy task to accomplish. But I sat in Mark's house and they stepped off the page and became very real to me. Dr. Richard Brewer was a stirring force of nature. He was articulate, a scholar of music and life, and was a master of getting beautiful music out of timid souls and harnessing the energy of accomplished musicians, turning the weak into the powerful and the good into the great. This was Richard Brewer. The music and the man were one and the same. Teaching students to learn and love all types of music was his craft. In the late 1970s, the symphonic choir sang the Fauré Requiem at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon to a full house in this room. When we finished, there was not a sound in the chapel, not one. Doc clasped his hands and mouthed the words, "Thank you," to the choir. Choir and audience alike filed out in silence. That was the power of Richard Brewer and the choirs that he taught. There were times when you could see a flash of temper accompanied by that thunderous voice. But great art requires sacrifice and dedication. There were also glimpses of humor. Doc enjoyed a good pun, and he was known to innocently ask, "Who is Nosmo King and why are his signs all over the place?" When you took sophomore theory, he informed you on day one that you needed a supply of pencils and a very large gum eraser, which he had the bookstore stock especially for his class. If these walls could talk, they could list a hall of honors for the greatest composers of all time: J.S. Bach, C.P.E. Bach, Handel, Reinberger, Rossini, Palestrina, Dawson, Martin, Duruflé, Fauré, Boulanger, Saint-Saëns, Dvorak, Rutter, Gardner, Britten, Bernstein, Orff, and at least 100 more. If these walls could talk, those many and favored composers would talk of the artistic treatment their work received at the hand of a master musician. If these walls could talk, they would resonate with what is referred to as that sound. While writing this speech, I absent-mindedly pulled up a recording of the anthem of dedication to help me think. When the choir got to a text singing, "God is working his purpose out," I put my paper down. I was shaken from the fog of my thinking. It was almost that sound I was hearing. Not quite, but almost. I looked at the computer screen and saw that this was the 1961 Westminster Choir College graduation. The circle was now complete. The Little Westminster at Pfeiffer College brought that sound to thousands up and down the East Coast, from sea to shining sea, and many points in between, from the Capitol Rotunda to a small fishing village in North Carolina. That sound lives because of Richard Brewer, the music he made, the musicians he made, and the dedication of each one of us. If these walls could talk, they would remind us that indeed God is working his purpose out as year succeeds to year. If these walls could talk, they would ask the question that each of us was asked when we left this place. That question, whom shall we send, and who will go for us? And the answer then as now, "Here I am, Lord, send me." Thank you, Doc. Happy 100th birthday. Soli Deo Gloria.
My name is David Ratchford. I'm honored to be here today. 42 years ago yesterday, my wife and I stood down here and were married. So it's another special day. There are times in your life when you look back and marvel how things work out. For example, during my early years, I spent a great deal of time studying piano, organ, and enjoying equestrian activities with my family. One particular weekend at a horse show, friends from Charlotte, North Carolina, asked where I planned to go to college the following year. I told them the name of the schools that I was considering. They immediately said, "If you're planning on majoring in music, you must visit Pfeiffer College." Their college choir comes to our church most every year. Promise you will visit the campus and attend one of their concerts before you make a decision. And as they say, the rest is history. At my audition, I met this large, boisterous man that within the next 4 years would expose me to a whole new world of choral music. I also met this soft-spoken man with a dry wit who would guide me through the next 4 years of my undergraduate experience as an organ major. Stan Shear's depth and knowledge of organ literature provided a wealth of possibilities for study. He had the ability to delve into a piece of music and guide the student through the understanding of performance practice and move them toward a better understanding of how the music fit the fabric of history. He had the innate ability to see where small changes in your technique could improve your playing, which immediately improved your performance. Those gifts are just some of the highlights the organ students enjoyed. On a larger scale, the students in the School of Music benefited from Stan's informative music history classes, his choral accompaniments, and his chapel organ offerings were most appreciated and always prepared. His organizational skills deserve a special mention because of his guidance as head of the department. As 18 to 22-year-old students, we had no idea of the administrative responsibilities involved in running a department and keeping our school accredited. On a more personal note, Stan attended Westminster Choir College and graduated with undergraduate and graduate degrees in organ. The day after graduation, June 1st, 1963, he married his classmate, Jane Herwig. They moved to Stanley County, where their children, Peter and Kristen, were born. Stan taught here at Pfeiffer for 20 years. Throughout his career, he served as church organist in Salisbury, Charlotte, and Albemarle. He also served as an organ consultant for churches in the purchase of new organs. In 1988, he began working for Cassavant Organs, first from Albemarle, then from Canada, commuting for 18 years. As a first-generation college graduate, Pfeiffer's size, led by Stan Shear's knowledge, personal interest, and guidance of his students, was a special, perfect fit for my undergraduate experience. We thank you for sharing your talents and sharing such a large part of your life with us. Blessings.
Hi,
Thank you to Jonathan Hutchinson, our university archivist, who put that slideshow together. Wonderful memories and pictures there of lots of folks, and some of you right here in this room, I'm sure. Maybe you'd like to forget about some of those looks. And of course, that I should tell you that recording, that particular recording, came from the last reunion we had in 2016, where we had over 100 people jammed up here, and that was one of them. That was conducted by graduate Phil Suggs, and I believe Jonathan Setzer, also a graduate, was playing the organ. It's my great privilege now to welcome, to greet us, Dr. Scott Bullard, President of Pfeiffer.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate the introduction, and if you are thinking that the title of president sounds rather lofty, all of you should remember that I am your inferior, having put my tail between my legs after Music Theory 2 and declared a minor in music. Wittgenstein, the subject of my own dissertation, a philosopher, said that some things can only be shown, not said. And so with that and this, I will be brief. But I thought it might be interesting to sort of go into character very briefly and offer you some words from a graduate of Pfeiffer College in the 60s, in the mid-60s. It was an unusually hot spring Sunday afternoon, said the alumnus of Pfeiffer's music program. She had attended Pfeiffer in the mid-1960s. I was a senior in high school. I had played that morning at Swepsonville United Methodist Church, which was a suburb of Graham, which was a suburb of Burlington. And my piano teacher had taken me to meet a pastor in the Graham area who suggested that I visit Pfeiffer with him that afternoon. I was met by a first-year professor who showed me around. He was tall, he had a strong personality, and my teacher told me that he had a wonderful mastery of music, but I was worried that Pfeiffer might be a bit small compared to the other institutions that I was looking at. But this large man with this large personality told me that a couple from Westminster Choir School were on the way and would join him at Pfeiffer in the fall. So I was convinced, even though I thought it rather small, even though, more importantly, I was Baptist and my parents had gone to Campbell College. I know something about the music department at Campbell College, but we'll talk about that another time. It was remarkable that the professors that I encountered on that trip and the professors that would mold me for the next 4 years had come to Pfeiffer, had found to Pfeiffer, she said. And it may have been more remarkable that they stayed. But stay they did, and here we all are. We are gathered here today to remember a conductor, to remember, as one reviewer said today, someone who was soft-spoken but noted that how even the smallest details could revolutionize someone's performance or interpretation of a piece. And I am thankful for our reviewers or our biographers who joined us via Zoom, who noted that Anderson was an overestimator in some ways of talent. Having been running from a music major at one point in my life into an ethics major, and in spite of all of my flaws in my youth at the age of 20, declaring that I wanted to be a college professor. And instead of laughing at me and remarking on my ignorance, the professor across the desk in that academic advising session did me the very big favor of choosing to overestimate me. Or in the words of our friends, choosing to say can instead of can't. So many of you are here today because someone said can instead of can't. And someone involved you in a music major, an academic discipline, a choir, wherein you worked not in order necessarily to draw attention to yourselves, but to point beyond yourself to something greater. A God, beauty, music. Our mission statement has my favorite word in it is transformational, or transforming. Many of you are here today because professors transformed you or participated in the divine's transformation of you. I asked at some point along the way in my first year with Beth Harrison and Joe Judge, what is a university? And in the midst of a very large building project 15 miles from here that promised all sorts of fiscal prosperity and financial stability and economic development for a region, and even the promotion of the health of the least of these, others dared to ask, is a university without music a university at all? Is a university that calls students into the bodily and intellectual interpretation of texts not a wonderful and beautiful and appropriate thing? Is the beauty that it injects into our lives day after day, concert after concert, not valuable in and of itself? Is a university that knew long before athletics the understanding of harmony and team, something that points to something beyond yourself? Music was unearthed in the halls of our universities long before athletics, and I'm a former student athlete, the practice, the value of making mistakes in rehearsals or in practice rooms that challenge us to try again, and not only try harder, but try smarter, with the value of a mentor, a professor who's calling us into the small details of our discipline, is what propels us forward as humans and as a people. Long before the studies all came in that are all the rage today, we now know these things, but these saints knew that the study of music developed parts of our brains and parts of ourselves and parts of our souls that nothing else develops. Dostoevsky said, or had one of his characters proclaim, that beauty will save the world. And I believe that. I believe that, and I thank you for this beautiful act and this beautiful day, because from that alumnus in the 1960s who wound up playing organ at Duke University and then wound up playing organ at Harvard Divinity School, even while Pope John the 23rd said Mass on that campus. You have created something beautiful and far beyond yourselves. From the Joyce Rices of the world in Massachusetts and Maine, to the Asa Hudsons in North Stanley, to all of the Joe Judges and the Gina Poovies in between. And I know I leave out so many, so very many. Their influence is incomparable. So thank you, music alumni, music faculty, and other friends for having the depth, the unselfishness, the awareness, for having the souls to say thank you and to say it so well, and to cause and ensure that another generation of Pfeiffer students, faculty, and staff will remember, will pursue beauty and truth, and will do so knowing that another generation of teachers will inspire us and propel us forward and cause us to learn to point beyond ourselves to beauty. Thanks for the invitation.
As we close today, or before we depart, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize these few people. I want to first, if you would stand, please. Mrs. Eileen Brewer is here today. So delighted that you're here, and I have to confess that I was under an impression that Mrs. Brewer was living in Winston-Salem. I don't know where I got that. Maybe she's been thinking about that and hadn't quite gotten there yet, but she's still over here, right here in Richfield on Gold Branch Road, so we'll be visiting for sure. And along with her are her children, Andrew and Lynn. Would you all stand? And Andrew's children. Yep. Yeah. Thank you for being here today. And Mr. Stanley Shear is with us as well. Stan, will you stand? And I want to give a great heartfelt thanks to Larry and to David and to Julie and to Vera, and I know every one of us have stories to tell and reflections to share, and I think we have to keep doing that. Isn't that the thing that unites us? Is shared experiences, and it's amazing. Again, I'll never forget in 1987 when we had the very first Pfeiffer Choir reunion. I got to sit right up here in the middle of the stage with Glenn Griffiths, who was one of the in one of the first choirs with Dr. Brewer, and I sat right next to him, and I was graduating that year, one of Dr. Brewer's last choir members here at Pfeiffer, and just an amazing connection. So thank you for your attendance. Thank you to all of those of you who tuned in online. I think I'm supposed to end with the alma mater, but you know what? I feel very inadequate doing that. And so the words to the alma mater that Dr. Brewer composed in 1963, and a group of students went over to the house on Pfeiffer Place. I think members of the chamber singers went over and sang it through for the first time. He was inspired by the students coming back that fall to write it, and the words ring incredibly true to this day. And in 1996, when Pfeiffer became a university, he himself updated the words, and we sing that today. Every year, under normal circumstances, I get to teach that to the incoming students and teach them that it is not a fight song, but it is our anthem, our alma mater, and we continue to sing it at convocation and at graduations and so forth. So anyway, unless you all just want to stand and sing it, we can do that, but again, I feel inadequate to sing that for you. So with that, I invite you to stand and gather and talk with one another. Come, please have a close look at Mark's painting, and thank you so much to Mark Stevenson for your incredible work. God bless.
Okay.